So Ben Whittaker was back with a bang. What do I think of his performance? Well, I do want to start with the positives. It was a great performance, right? He stopped a guy in Liam Cameron who had never been stopped before. I thought he boxed really well in the first two rounds. The first one went really well, and then he stopped him in the second round. Can't get much better, right? He did show a lot of mental strength as well to recover from the controversial draw, which a lot of people considered a loss, to come back and fight the same guy. Deserves credit for that as well. He answered the questions we have over his power. I mean, I know for me, I was concerned when he didn't seem to get Ezra out of there, didn't seem to hurt him at all. And one thing I thought was interesting was he finished Cameron in the same round that Parker finished Bacoli. That doesn't seem like a coincidence, right? I think this new link up with Andy Lee is going really well, and for me that was a really good sign. However, obviously I don't like to be too harsh on these fighters because, you know, they do an incredibly tough sport, something I can do myself, and, you know, that was a great night for Whittaker, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but if he wants to be world champion, the best of the best, you have to hold him to very high levels of critique, and there were just a few things that might concern me, you know, if we're looking at a future #1 contender in the 175 division. So first thing I want to talk about is that was a lot of build up for a guy who had 6 losses. You know what I mean? Like, you're having a 50-50 fight with a guy who has 6 losses on his record. Like, that does signal some concerns for me. And, you know, it moves on to my next point. There are some killers at world level, like killers at world level. You know, what would they have done to Liam Cameron? You know what I'm saying? What does David Benavidez do to him? What does David Morrell do to him? These guys don't even have the belts. What does Callum Smith do to him? What does Boachi do to him? And we haven't even got to, like, Beterbiev or Bivol yet. Beterbiev, by the way, who knocked out Callum Smith, who beat Boachi. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's levels at this division, and there are some absolute killers at this division. So, yeah, I do have a few concerns, but all in all, I don't want to be too harsh because that is a great night for Ben Whittaker. Stopped to go, he'd never been stopped. Boxed really well. Great improvement from his last fights. I don't want to be too harsh. Okay, final points. Thoughts on the stoppage. I did think it was an early stoppage. I do find it crazy the inconsistency with how boxing matches are refed all across the world. You know, you look at America and you look at North America, they just want people to die in there. I remember watching Bacoli versus Anderson. Like, Anderson was done, and they just, like, let him keep going. It was nuts. You know, I feel like it's sort of the opposite problem in Britain. Like, I know, like, the saying is you'd rather be a punch too soon than a punch too late, but I do feel like you want to give these fighters a chance to fight on, you know? How many fighters have we seen come back from big knockdowns early on in fights? Lee Wood comes to mind. Carl Froch comes to mind. And, you know, Liam Cameron wasn't even knocked down. It was a bit of pressure and his legs wobbled, but he wasn't even knocked down. Personally, I think they should have given him an 8 count. I understand if you think that the ropes held him up. Cool, just, like, give him an 8 count. It did seem early to call it off, but then again, it's like, you know, we weren't in there. We didn't, you know, we couldn't read his body language, but I would like to see him have a bit more time to fight on. Like, you know, these guys, you know, they trained for 12 weeks for this. You know, this is like their livelihood. This is their money. Like, I would want to see them have a bit more time to fight on. But all in all, credit to Ben Whittaker. Proved a lot of people wrong. You know, a great stoppage over a guy who'd never been stopped before. Where next for Ben Whittaker? I do find that a difficult question. I reckon if you want to move him slowly, you go Dan Aziz. If you want to go a little bit faster, you go Yard, Boachi, or Dan Aziz. Yeah, I think that's what you'd have to do. You know, you move up the levels, right? It'd be interesting to see him against those guys. I think Boachi would be a really good test. I know they've sparred before. I don't know how those sparring stories went. But yeah, the Ben Whittaker train is back on. Let's see where he goes next. Okay, what are my thoughts on the card in general? It was a decent card, but there was, like, you know, like the referee controversy did sort of take place the entire night. You know, Ebenezer Tete probably stopped a bit too early. Lee Cutler, Sam Egerton. I thought Lee Cutler was unlucky, to be honest. I thought he won the fight, or a draw. I thought a loss, 90-83, was really harsh. Considering that, like, punches definitely opened some of those cuts. I thought Lee Cutler was unlucky. not to win it on cuts. But all in all, since the main event delivered, it doesn't matter too much about the undercard. The Felix Cash fight was a bit boring. But yeah, a decent event overall. I did enjoy it. I guess I'm quite gutted for Liam Cameron. You know, I love the story behind him. You know, just like, you know, everything's gone against him. The redemption, the comeback. I would love the Liam Cameron win. But look, I'm happy for Ben Whittaker. He performed really well. And the only other boxing I noted the weekend was on Saturday. Dalton Smith won. You know, he did drop the guy. So if you drop him, I'm not too concerned if you don't get him out of there, because it was such a difficult style. Like, the guy was just there to survive. So yeah, Dalton Smith looking to get a title shot next, hopefully. So yeah, that is my review of the weekend's boxing. I reckon I'm going to do some more videos on the upcoming fights this weekend. The Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn card. I think the undercard's really good, and I really want to give some, you know, some press to the fights like Vidal Riley, Chev Clark. That's a monster fight. Even Chris Benham-Smith, I think he's going to be in a really good fight as well. So yeah, subscribe and like if you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.